It's time for the unofficial 40. Soonerscoop.com's very official recruiting podcast featuring Soonerscoop.com recruiting publisher Josh McCuistion. Get your recruiting fix from the leader in Sooner recruiting. It's the unofficial 40 with your hosts, Soonerscoop.com publishers Carey Murdoch and Josh McCuistion. Eddie Radsovich.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back! Back with the podcast, the unofficial 40. Eddie and I are back from Frisco, Texas, where we were just hanging out during Big 12 Media Days. Glad to be back from it. It's ridiculous outside right now here in Oklahoma. It's over 100 degrees today. I think it was over 100 the entire time that we were in Dallas, too, because it was miserable leaving the Ford Center every day.
It has gotten to the point where it is just miserable anytime you go outside, and you kind of think twice about even leaving your house at times.
And I think it was just kind of like that first day, because I was in there. Eddie could tell you, I'd get up at 4:30. Like the first day, I got up even earlier because I'd never been to the Ford Center, so I wanted to make sure I got in the right place. So I get there, and they have an entrance that's on the exact opposite side where the media have to go in that early. And so I had to park all the way on the other side of the Ford Center and then walk all the way around and through sprinkler systems, got my pants all wet, and so I'm walking in there, it looks like I just pissed myself. Like, is this what I'm supposed to be? But that first day, we wake up at 4:30, get over there, and then about 5 p.m., we decide to go ahead and get out of there because the Jaqueline Crawford commitment was going to happen at 6, right?
Yeah, it was kind of imminent, and we just wanted to get home to the hotel.
Make sure we were there to do all the social and all that stuff. No, it was a good trip. It was first off, let me shut up for a second. Welcome in Josh McCuistion, our recruiting publisher. Josh, welcome to the program.
Thanks. Love the local radio host intro there, Carey. That was nice.
Eddie Radosovich is here.
Hello.
You talking about the We're Back?
Yes, that was
the Saturday Night Live episode with Ben Affleck and Jimmy Fallon, like Z104.
Just need to give out a couple prize packs, and we'd be right there.
And some Johnny's Charcoal Brother.
Yeah, we could.
Johnny's, if you want to sponsor the podcast, feel free.
CC Rick Haynes. We'll just send this to him. We'll send this.
We need to get over to West to get the real Zuko chips.
Yes.
Eddie and I had a fine dining establishment, North Italia, which is actually, we are staying actually in Plano. It's right on the border there, because we go like right there where the shops at Legacy are, the Marriott that I like staying in. It's like it's the very end of Plano, I guess. But we went to this place called North Italia. It was, I don't know, Josh, are you big into fine dining and are you a foodie at all?
I am. I know I'm not to the level you are. You like when Tiffany and I went to San Antonio a few months back to go to SeaWorld, we literally went back to the pancake place that you, Eddie, and I went to a couple years ago.
Magnolia Pancake House.
Yes. Did you
get the Fanfanukin or whatever that thing was called?
Yeah, Tiffany was really into it for a while, but really once Lainey came along, it's just kind of like wherever you can get food and
she'll eat it.
And slightly verbose child is not going to be a problem, then that's where we're going to go. So, like, we love it when it's not that busy because we're like, well, if she acts a fool, we're all going to survive it. So,
but I mean, I'm just saying this because I'm trying to broaden Eddie's horizons. Eddie's very much, I would say, I can't remember the most exotic thing I've ever seen you eat. You're a picky eater, aren't you?
Yeah, very picky. Like I didn't even start putting stuff on my burger until,
when you say
3 or 4
stuff,
years.
What do you mean?
Like anything. I used to just get meat
cheese?
and cheese. No, I just used to get meat and cheese.
But no condiment whatsoever.
No condiment.
No pickle.
No, I don't like pickles. Any part of pickles. I don't like them.
Fried pickles.
I mean, I'll eat them, but that's usually like in a very drunken atmosphere, like drinking some beers. I guess I'll eat them if they're around.
Do you like cheese sticks?
Oh yeah,
that's right up your alley.
Yeah, cheese sticks. I'm very picky though.
Are you a chicken guy? Do you have like a preference of like Cane's, Zaxby's? I know you like Chick-fil-A. Everybody likes
Chick-fil-A. I think Zaxby's is good. I'd go Raising Cane's though before that.
Yeah.
So it's all there.
It's like pizza. It's not there's no bad. It's just different.
Yeah, I don't like pizza. I'm usually just a pepperoni sausage kind of guy. No mushroom or anything like that.
Oh, that's madness.
Yeah,
mushroom is a requirement for any of my pizzas.
Well, yeah, I don't do that.
But
and I don't
we
in ranch
we
either.
go to this fantastic. It's like a modern Italian restaurant.
Very good.
And Eddie says Eddie. What's bizarre about this is Eddie's such a picky eater, yet he knows pretty much everything there is to know about the fine dining industry in Oklahoma City. Like he knows the people that are opening up the Jones, which is like the Rustic if you're from Dallas, and Graham Colton is part owner of that, and it's a cool ass place down in Midtown, and but he knows everything, and so like Eddie told me like we're trying to make. He's like, yeah, they might be putting one of these North Italia places in Oklahoma City soon. Yeah,
they. I know the owner of it loosely. I don't know him, but I know a guy that knows him, and they've thought about putting one in Oklahoma City.
But the thing is, this started out in Phoenix or
in Arizona,
Tempe or something.
Yeah, Tucson or Phoenix. I think
Tucson.
One of the two. It's a pretty cool idea.
So it's not just Oklahoma City. You're nationwide in your restaurateur knowledge.
Yeah, I need to get some coupons or something.
Some coupons or coupons?
Whatever.
So anyway, this is a modern Italian place. The pizzas looked fantastic too.
Very good.
And I get this thing. I love polenta. And I love grits too. Like anything kind of creamy and corny, I'm down with it. And so it had this. It was a red wine braised short rib with carrots. I can't remember how they just glazed carrots, and it was in a creamy mascarpone polenta, like at the bottom of it, and then it had like Swiss chard with it, and it was fantastic. And I was like, Eddie, this is like some of the best food I've ever seen. Just take a guess at what Eddie orders, Josh.
I'm gonna go with like lasagna or something. Spaghetti.
You're thinking too far outside the box.
Spaghetti and meatballs is what Eddie got.
It was fantastic too, but I had a Caesar salad as well.
Yeah,
the Caesar salad was good.
I forced him to try Zucco chips, which are just really thin zucchinis that are deep fried or like the ones at West in Oklahoma City like have a tempura batter and a dipping sauce with them, and they're just the best things ever. But Eddie actually liked the Zucca chips.
Yeah, they weren't bad at all. I think that North Italia, I was trying to explain it to my parents, and I said that it is like a Fazolis, but on steroids, and
that's how
1,000 times
this?
better. Yeah. Because that's what it was.
You reference your Italian. You can't say like Olive Garden or Zio's or like.
Because it wasn't anywhere close to those.
But Fazoli's is high cotton for you.
No. I haven't eaten at Fazolis in a long time, but.
Are those even in Oklahoma anymore?
I think there's one on Expressway still.
There was
That's
one.
the only one I know of.
Yeah.
There was one.
There's
Norman.
one on Penn as well.
Oh, okay. So
over
they
by
still
the
exist.
Sam's. I think so, yeah.
So we can have two Fazolis, but I can't get a damn Moe's. Except at the airport.
It's a Chipotle world we live in.
Every time I come home from the airport, I don't eat, so I can go get a quesadilla at Moe's at the airport. Which that doesn't even make any sense. Like, how do you support a Moe's? They fly in the chicken every day? And the black beans?
You got to go through security to get it.
Because that godforsaken Freebirds place took over the Moe's that was over there in Belle Isle. And that place
those are big in Houston. There's a lot of Freebirds.
That's such crap.
Freebirds is
such crap.
I like it. I think it's okay. I'm not the Chipotle Moe's crazy person that some people are, though. Like
I'm a big Qdoba guy.
I think they're fairly interchangeable most of the time.
I don't stray from Chipotle or Fuzzies.
I'm kind of like Chuka and Dulaway. Like I literally can get in a mode. Well, until all the restaurants started getting shut down, where I could eat Chipotle every day.
Yeah, I probably could too.
So anyway, there was our fine dining experience. I will say that the food at the Ford Center, they have like the Fox Sports mixer or whatever. And I met I met a guy from Norman that runs a blog, and he was a super nice guy, like Land Grant Gauntlet or something like that. Super nice guy. So shout out to you, good sir, for going down, because there's a lot of people at Rivals that don't even go to that thing. So
it was a very
Eddie makes money because of it.
It was a great event, I would say, and I hate to give the Big 12 so much credit.
It really worked out way better than I thought it would. Being all on, I hated it. Like, if the Omni was open, it would have been perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only pain in the ass, is that, it would have been nice, like on Tuesday, to go up in the room or something and come back down.
Yeah.
But that was the only negative. When they moved that back, I can see why the SEC would want to have it there.
I thought it was a pretty cool little stage that they set for the Big 12 media.
Except we just need a camera with a better zoom next time.
Well, we were 45 yards away from the stage. I mean, Jesus.
We were like on the 50, and the guys were talking in the end zone.
Yeah, it was far, but I thought everything went really well. You never know what the Big 12 is going to do as far as setting things up, and usually you can imagine how disappointing it is, but I thought everything went really well.
Okay, so here's the thing, and I don't know. This was my pet peeve this week of everyone. It was with Tom Herman, it was with Matt Rule, and it was certainly with Lincoln Riley. But the whole, take of so-and-so had a great first impression. Like, Lincoln Riley had an amazing day at Big 12 Media Day. And, he talked. All these guys get head coaching jobs because they can talk. They're not idiots. They're not coming in and saying racist things and, being homophobic. I mean, Jim Grobe had the worst Big 12 media day that I've ever seen. And yet, everybody was just kind of like, but there's no, let's let them play some damn football. Let's let them call some plays, face a 4th and 1 on their own 30-yard line before we start talking about what a great day these first-year coaches had.
Great first impression. He killed it.
Yeah. I mean, just shut up.
It's
front door.
It's very I guess as a whole, the Big 12 media days and media days as a whole it's like I think I put it on the board. It's the last speed bump of the summer that you have to get through that you would never like to return back to. Because I think it's pretty worthless as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of do the same thing, which is you go and you try and get guys on the side to talk to them during their downtime. And then, I've still got to get through an entire hour and a half of Lincoln Riley just talking, which I know Eddie's biggest pet peeve out of this deal was that, and we knew this going in, you're going to get a lot of the same questions, what was it like when you found out that Bob Stoops was stepping down? I mean, the Baker Mayfield stuff was asked constantly. It just, you knew that the stuff that's already been covered, but that's just was going to be asked, but that's just part of this event when you have national media.
You have to get through it. You have to get through it.
And there were some things that I took out of it, talking to Baker. What was Baker, he had a haircut and he looked like a little kid.
Yeah, he did.
It was so weird. He was clean shaven. He just didn't look scraggly at all.
No, yeah, clean cut, I guess would be the best way to say it.
But I was talking to him, and I know he was kind of beaten down because he just had to answer the questions about the Arkansas stuff over and over again. And so I just looked at him after a few answers. And I'd been standing there for a couple minutes, and I was like, "Have you toned it down?" And he was like, "What? On the field?" I was like, "No, you, Baker Mayfield. Have you toned it down? Is Baker Mayfield toned down?" And he looked at me. He goes, "Are you trying to insult me?" Because he was just so not Baker. There wasn't that chip on his shoulder, and the anger, boiling up inside. It was weird.
It was, yeah, I would agree, and it was also just really awkward. People not really coming after him, but just the whole aspect of his arrest over the summer, I think it's probably embarrassing to talk about, and he doesn't know which angle people are coming from, but it's just you would think that some of these people thought that he had, gone through a rape conviction over the summer.
It is. I'm sorry, Josh. Go ahead.
No, we've talked about it. I'm gonna go on the rant. I'll avoid it. I don't understand how that's still a topic. Like I don't get it. I don't get why Carey, you and I were talking, with everybody's favorite catch last night on Twitter a little bit and kind of loosely around this topic, but I don't even know how you compare. Like, why is he held to a different standard than every other college kid in the country? He made a stupid decision while he was drinking. Welcome to 50% of college students. Like, I don't know. We will.
We've talked about it before. It's the Joe Mixon shadow.
I don't want to go into
that. I mean, it's
the
Joe Mixon shadow and everything. It's just like I wrote the thing about Jordan Thomas last night. It's like there were so many things that had happened that, it was really bad when he got arrested for assault and battery, but at the same time, he was out at a bar. Look at that Arkansas video that people thought was Baker. Like those bouncers.
Yeah.
Like those bouncers are animals. They are bouncers because they want to fight. So like when you go to a bar and things get out of control, you don't know did he start a fight or did he get in an argument with a bouncer and it just went south really fast?
It's always interesting how these things are, I guess, viewed publicly.
But, I mean, Jordan Thomas put himself in that position by being a knucklehead for a full year.
It's just that I think that the thing that always surprises me is the people that are just, like, disgusted by these college kids that they go out and they're at bars, they're underage drinking, and they need to be better people for society because they play football. Those types of people are the types of people.
Because they get a scholarship and they're special.
Yes, and it's just like, those are the types of people that get angry about that. Like there was somebody yesterday that was all hot and bothered on Twitter with me because he wanted to know why Jim Ross stands on the sidelines. Like those are the types of people that I'm glad that bad things happen to.
He's mad that Jim Ross stands on the sidelines.
Yeah, he's like, why? Who lets him down there? And I told him he had a pathetic life. First off, and when you have activist in your Twitter bio, by the way, that automatically red flags me as somebody that I already hate.
Activist, I should share a policy that Tiffany has. If you have more than 3 bumper stickers on your car, your crazy likelihood goes up tremendously in Tiffany's eyes. And I find that she's probably right in this theory. Like,
no doubt.
You get that many bumper stickers, like something's not right with you.
Yeah, like you want to drive around in your Mini Cooper with your 13.1 or your 26.2 thing on it in the corner. That's fine.
Yeah,
but
not cool, but still fine.
You start throwing "Feel the Burn" stickers all over your car, and
just if you have anything that has anything with and not to get political, but if you have anything that is in terms of replacing Obamacare on the back of your car, go ahead and never leave your house.
Didn't we see one of those the other day?
Yeah, it just like it blows my mind.
Some dude in a Cadillac, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's driving like a dickhead. Imagine that.
Yeah, he was.
Eddie, that's the first political warning.
Not to be political.
First political warning. Next time will be a week.
Hey, we live in a world where O.J. Simpson is getting out of prison. I think that all the wheels are off.
By the way, moment of silence here. I know for Eddie, this is a very emotional day. Chester Bennington bites the dust, kills himself, hangs himself.
Is that how he went out?
That how it went? I knew he was suicide. I didn't hear the hanging. Wow.
I don't. I saw that on Twitter. I didn't really research it.
Gotcha.
But I mean, Chris Cornell and now Chester Bennington, and literally, it's like since the moment I heard that, the only thing in my head is, what I do. I mean, like I cannot get Linkin Park songs out of my head now.
It's a sad day at Putnam City North gym. That was the workout CD of choice for the 2005-2006 Putnam City North Panthers. And
what did you call that summer workout?
Iron Claw. It's a very sad day. Hopefully they have a moment of silence in the morning before they start working out.
Yeah, I might have to start working on Linkin Park stuff for the morning now.
That's a shame. See, Cornell, at least that was worth listening to.
Oh my God, he's not even cold.
You think the band's better off now?
God, That's all. I don't mean like I have. Sorry, the guy died, and I won't pretend that I didn't have some Linkin Park stuff. But like Chris Cornell, you go back and you're like, God, that was really good. Like I don't feel like you go back to Linkin Park and you're like, man, why did they quit making records? Like I don't feel like you're that way. Like, oh, that was kind of a window of time, and yep, they kind of made like emo rap music. I don't really know how else to say that. So,
yeah, it was kind of like like Third Eye Blind, 311, rap rock.
Yeah.
Kind of Chili Peppers thrown in there a little bit.
Yeah, but he was just like, he was the part that I always struggled with because I loved his voice. Like, dude really did. He had a great voice, but like, I don't know. I couldn't get there with like a rock. It's kind of like Drake. Like Drake will sing like this really upbeat rap song, and he's talking about how sad he is about all the women he's got to hook up with. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you be sad about that? And with Bennington, you're like, you're singing this fast-paced, ragey rock music, and like your dad wasn't nice to you. Like, what? I don't know what happened here. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
By the way, I will say this: we need in Oklahoma City. We need that. They called it like old school hip hop, but it wasn't old. I mean, it was like all like I just finished watching the Defiant ones, and it was like all the Dr. Dre, era. I mean, it had like a lot of NWA, a lot of Dre, a lot of Eminem. It had some 50 Cent in it, but like it was like the best station, and we listened to it the entire time.
Oh yeah, 105.1 or whatever.
No, it was 94.5, I think.
Oh, in Dallas.
Yeah,
that was really good.
But man, we need that anyway.
We used to have one. It was 103.5, and now I don't think that they play music anymore. I don't know what they do.
See, that's the rap. That's the rap I grew up on. Like everybody can always think their genre or their era of music is the good one, but for me, I'm actually right. Like that's the best rap ever.
No,
period.
it's like when you had it's like, have you watched Defiant ones?
Oh, I have. I loved it.
Yeah, like the whole
really some of the best stuff I've seen.
Like after Dre leaves NWA, like all the artists that came out of it. I know like the Aftermath stuff bombed at the beginning, but like the stuff that they were doing with Suge Knight and Death Row Records. I mean, when you had Biggie and Puffy on the East Coast, and then you had Tupac and Dre and Snoop Dogg and that era, and then like when he leaves, and then Eminem comes and 50 Cent comes, and I mean it's just
early Nas and Jay-Z.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're talking about really just the type. I mean, guys that are still making records 20 years later and still making like better than most of the young guys. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still a few guys out there that are really good, but that era of talent's just ridiculous.
By the way, if you're Jay-Z, like is the shine coming off of him a little bit with the whole 444 and like title? Like when you watch Defiant Ones, you realize that Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre did it. Like I don't know anybody's going to do it as big as they did it by selling beats to Apple of all people, because now Apple has their music service. You have Spotify, and I don't know anybody, because I'm a white guy, I don't know anybody that has a Tidal subscription.
I think there's a lot. I mean, Jay-Z's pretty awesome.
I wasn't getting a Tidal subscription just so I could hear his album early, though.
No. I don't know anybody that... I mean, nowadays you can get... Somehow, some way you can get it, but I do know there were a lot of people that did.
So anyway, but back to... We'll stop being off topic for a little bit. Back to the Big 12 media days.
Break down the 4-3! We're getting there.
Let Josh talk! So Big 12 media days, it was really good. They did it up right. I think they should keep doing it there. But overall, I'll say this, and I'm kind of working on Lincoln's day and how he his people's impressions of him. But we finally got to have the moment where Lincoln was the head coach publicly for the first time, and it was weird. It was different, but at the same time, it made me think about like who Bob Stoops was as a coach, because you kind of get this with Gary Patterson, but Bob Stoops, when he would walk into a room, he just exuded intensity. Like everything about him, just his attitude, the way that he approached people, He could be lighthearted, but he was so intense. Like, I don't know that I've ever been around a person that is as intense as Bob Stoops was.
He was kind of the definition of a power move guy. Like, when it was Oklahoma's day at Big 12 Media Days in the last however many years I've been down there, it was like, Bob Stoops is going to be here. I mean, we kind of know what to expect, but everybody gravitated towards that.
And see, like, Mike Gundy kind of gave away having that aura, I thought, when he went into, because of the This Is 40. You know, I'm a man, I'm 40. Like, when that happened, he just became kind of a loose cannon coach. But, like, Gary Patterson, he's intense. Like, the stuff that he's gone off on with Baylor over the years, he speaks his mind, he says what he wants, but he doesn't have those championships that Bob had to kind of elevate him to that, stud level of coaches.
Well, and there's a certain just level of, like, I think with Mike Gundy, you'd be a lot more apt or a lot more able to ask, like, a kind of a silly question.
Yeah.
You could screw around with them a little bit more. You pretty much knew that you weren't going to get much of a rise out of Bob unless you had a really good relationship with him. I think, Carey, you probably could. I don't know very many people that couldn't or could, though, that, like, could get away with something like that.
He had to know there was no screwing around.
Yeah, there was no screw around time for that with Bob.
And I think that, and Eddie, you're good at doing that. Like, you did that to Baker over the weekend.
I've gotten it with Lincoln a couple times. We'll see how he acts as a head coach.
Yeah, I got one. That's a good question from him, so it made my day, kind of.
He's
because he does do that. Like, he's not bullshitting. Like, if he thinks a question's good, he'll tell you.
Yeah, and the thing with Lincoln too is I don't know. I don't want to say that nobody respects him, because that's I walked away thinking that was the complete opposite effect of. I was wondering how the players were going to take, like, him giving that hard ass "I'm the head coach" speech, and then listening to Orlando Brown, it sounds like they couldn't. It's the exact opposite. They have more than enough respect for him. I guess what I'm saying is I was kind of wondering and worried about, could he be the hard ass coach? I think he can after this weekend.
I think everybody on the outside is doing the same thing I noticed myself doing with Tom Herman a little bit. Like, I was sitting at the radio station this morning, and we had the TVs on, and Tom Herman was on Sports Center, and I'm looking at him, and I'm going, he just looks like a dork. Like, his eyebrows look, they're real sharp, and he looks evil. Like, he looks like an evil character in a movie because of his eyebrows. If you could see the picture that's in my head, but it really is like, I'm kind of like, well, we'll see. I mean, I know this guy's a hot coach and everything, but...
Are you reporting that Tom Herman is part of ISIS?
No. But I am saying, he had some tough losses at Houston. I mean, people remember that OU win, but they did not play particularly well. I mean, they geared their entire season towards beating OU.
I mean, do you remember how uninspired that performance at Louisville was last year?
Terrible. Like,
that was on a Thursday night. Everybody was watching it.
Yeah.
And they just pretty much got ran off the field.
They did, yeah. It was ugly. So, I'll see. I mean, everybody keeps talking about, oh, well, Texas has got as much talent as anybody else. I don't think that they do. I don't know that they do at the skill positions on offense or at the quarterback position.
It was very interesting just to see, like, I get not love affair, but I mean, the Texas media loves them some head football coach at Texas.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Just look how the difference in, I guess, almost voice of the questions to Tom Herman as opposed to the questions to Cliff Kingsbury. And Kingsbury was in that position 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny how everything works. And Lincoln Riley will be in a different situation too if he doesn't win at Oklahoma.
But I think, on the outside, people look at Lincoln and they say, well, OU thinks that they're just going to pass the torch and everything's going to be smooth, but there's no way losing Bob Stoops is... he's got to prove that he can make it a smooth. I agree with that, but to take the position that OU is in trouble, or to just forget about the fact that they're really still the only team in this conference besides Texas capable of playing real defense. I mean, they are, and we saw the guys that they had in the spring. And Josh, through recruiting, But, I mean, just looking at Caleb Kelly and Obo Okoronkwo and even the young guys that they have, I mean, I think Addison Gums looks like a guy that's going to contribute as a true freshman, backing up Obo. And we'll see on the linebacker positions. But in the secondary, I mean, Will Sunderland's a tough loss, but still, Parker, Thomas, Parker, I mean, that's a really good secondary.
Stephen Parker mentioned Ryan Jones as a guy that has really impressed him over the summer at
and he's a guy that'll be competing,
and as
for
well
Will
as
Sunderland's
Robert Barnes.
But I don't know. I mean, Josh, what do you think just about defensive talent in the conference?
Oh, I mean,
Texas is good up front. I mean, you can't lie there.
Texas is good up front. I think Oklahoma's as good at linebacker as they've been in probably a decade. I mean, at least,
by the way, Kenneth
now,
Murray Obo could not say enough about how hard he's worked this summer.
Exactly. And I should clarify that. I'm not saying that when Oklahoma walks out on the field that first week, they're going to be the best linebacking core they've had in a decade. I'm saying the talent is there to get to that level. Caleb Kelly is a potential first rounder. Addison Gums has elite potential. Kenneth Murray, he hasn't played it down yet, and I already feel like I got him wrong. Like, I mean, that's how big the buzz is on him, and you guys know it too. Like, everybody raves about what a player he's become, and he's one of those guys that you just can't forecast. He's a
Mark Clayton as a linebacker. I mean, he's completely redefined his entire body.
He was 205 playing safety when I saw him again in an Elkins game last year, probably 10 months ago, and now he's 242. Playing Mike linebacker, like, that's just crazy. You can't tell me you could see that coming. So I like what I see from Oklahoma. They've got to figure out that other safety deal, and they've got to get things cleared up on the defensive line, because I know the coaching staff loves Matt Romar, and I get it at times, but man, that dude, like, he can't stay healthy. It's not like some guys you're like, oh, he got hurt, no big deal. This is a recurring deal, and I think it's probably because he's a guy that's probably playing a little heavier than his body's meant to handle. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, around the conference though, there's not those guys where you're like, oh yeah, that dude's going to be real. Like, and I don't even know who the next guy is. I love Dorrance Armstrong at Kansas. But, like, you don't see a Willis at Kansas State, like that surefire guy. Like, everybody knew that was it Jonathan Willis? I'm going to blank out on his name right now, from Kansas State, that won Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year.
It was Willis, yeah.
Yeah, I can't. God, I'm blanking on his first name. Doesn't matter. We all know who I'm talking about. But I don't see a lot of those guys that you're like, yeah, okay, just give it a little time. Even at Iowa State for years, they would have a couple of linebackers or some DBs that really jumped out at you. I don't see those guys around the conference, and I think it's like you said, Carey, it's something every school in the Big 12 is having to fight in recruiting of, why would you go there? It doesn't matter. You're going to get torched no matter what you do. Come play in XYZ conference because you actually have a chance to look like a good defensive player.
Jordan Willis is.
Jordan Willis. Yeah, Jordan
defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I think Romar is. You're right. He's a concern. I think they're very high on Neville Gallimore still. So I don't think Devontae Lampkin's gonna help them. I just don't get the sense like he's had a great summer. He was overweight coming out of the spring. I don't think people are counting on him. I think I don't even know how to say. How do you say that? Fa'amatu?
Yeah, Fa'amatu. It may be Tau, but it's something like. Yeah. Now,
I've heard really good things about it. They think that he can come in and be an instant backup to Romar. So,
I thought it was interesting. Got a little bit of clarification just on Amani Bledsoe's situation, and Carey, I know you can shed a little bit more light on that.
Definitely out 4 games to start the season, but and Lincoln didn't say this, but he said for now, it's 4 games. The appeals process is still going, and there is still a chance that he could get a waiver, and there's all kinds of things behind it, but apparently this is not an isolated incident with him and whatever the substance was. So there is a chance that the NCAA could rule that he's eligible immediately to start the season, and that if he is, I get the sense that they're going to maybe even look at him, drilling him down to a tackle position even.
That would be a big coup for Oklahoma, I think, defensively, if they could get just adding another body. I mean, I think as a whole, we're probably putting a little bit too much stock in Amani Bledsoe just because we don't know what he can bring. I think a lot of people saw what he could bring in the limited action that he did get, but to say that he's going to come in and be an all-conference guy, I think is a little much right now, just because he hasn't produced that much.
And see, Eddie, I'm sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, I mean, and it's so, because I'm so torn, as a recruiting guy, I love to get into the hype and the buzz and all that thing. And I think you guys know, I mean, I came back a couple of years ago from Semper Fi, and he was clearly the guy that caught my eye. He really jumped off, and I liked John Michael Terry while I was out there, Austin Kendall. I mean, there was a lot of OU guys out there that year, but that was my first chance to see him in person. And I'd love to see what he's done with his body, because he was always kind of lanky and lean, even for being, 265, 270, being a big kid like he was. But that's a guy that I felt like once he got in a weight program and got with, college coaches and really learned the fundamentals, I don't feel crazy to say that if you were going to say who's Oklahoma's second most high-level potential defensive lineman, I'd say it's Amani Bledsoe behind Neville Gallimore. I think Amani Bledsoe has NFL kind of ability. Now, that's crazy because he's played almost nothing. We don't know. Eddie's exactly right about all of that. But if you're just talking about how high is his ceiling, other than Gallimore, I don't think there's anybody that's all that close.
Well, and Eddie, you kind of hit up Baker on Cedarian Lamb and Charleston Rambo. And yeah. I've go ahead and kind of relay that conversation a little bit, but and I asked him about working with Jeff Badette a little bit, and he says, Badette reminds him a lot of Geno Lewis in just how he's handled himself and carried himself, and thinks that he could definitely be a big contributor for them.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear him talk about two guys that he's virtually worked with for a month and a half over the summer, and there's so many people want to know about the ins and outs of these I guess player-oriented practices over the summer.
7-on-7 and stuff.
Yeah, so there's only so much that I can put stock into it, but listening to a guy like Baker talk about him, and he flat out said that he thinks they're going to be two of the better players to come through here, and I think that taking him seriously on that, I think you can, but I think you should also be a little cautious in that. You wonder how much they truly are going to be in the rotation this season, how much they can catch on early in practice. Can they make some I guess, big-time, game-changing plays? And, I think that CeeDee Lamb is obviously a guy that I think a lot of people have kind of circled as that next guy. But, needless to say, Baker was very high on both of them. And he said that they were both guys that can, they can go up, make plays, and score the balls. And I think that's something that obviously you're looking for in a wide receiver. And I wonder how much these guys are actually going to play. And, it was something that I kind of thought about on the way home from Big 12 Media Days, Carey, was the fact that, do we think that freshmen are going to maybe play more? Is that an aspect of Lincoln Riley as a head coach that we don't know about? Because, so many people were always in that mode of, we heard about him as freshmen, but they never saw the lineup under Stoops. Does Lincoln Riley, being a younger guy, take a bigger chance on some of these guys?
Well, remember what I told you. I look at freshmen that have played over the years. I think about, 2005. I think about Malcolm Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 5 or 7 games into the season before he had his first touchdown catch, I think. But he was playing with a freshman quarterback. They did not have an established quarterback on that team. It was Paul Thompson, start of the year, struggled, got replaced by Rhett Bomar. Mark Clayton redshirted. And I'm trying to think, just go through. Malcolm Kelly became a great receiver, but if you have a great quarterback like Baker Mayfield, I don't necessarily think that you need to play freshman, because Baker Mayfield's going to throw the ball where it's supposed to go. You don't want a couple guys, no matter how talented they might be, you don't need 2 receivers that don't really know what they're doing out there. Yeah. Like they might break off a route, or they might run a wrong route, and Baker's going to throw the ball out and, not going to have a chance to complete a pass because it's on the receiver.
You run the wrong route against Ohio State and he gets picked off and back for 6. That could be the game.
Yeah. So, I mean, having a Jeffrey Mead that's been with him, been in battle, scored touchdowns, on passes that Baker's thrown. Mark Andrews. And I even throw Grant Calcaterra in there. I mean, as good as he's looked, he's still a freshman. So I don't know how much you want to rely on. And if you've got a Jeff Badette, I mean, these are guys that, that he can trust in when he drops back to pass, that they're going to be in the right spots. And to me, that's probably more valuable in the course of a season than it is to, have a couple of really talented guys out there on the field that you don't know if you can trust them to do the right thing all the time. And I'm sure no one wants to hear that.
Well, do you put something in place? Like, I thought it was, talking about Eddie's conversation with Baker. Baker mentioned, CD's one of those guys that can go get it. Just go up, jump ball, that kind of thing. I'm interested to see if OU would put something in place. Like you guys said, you don't want to put too much on him, especially going to Columbus. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere. That's a lot to throw on a young guy. And especially, as he's learning the offense and routes and all the other things he's got to know. But, okay, we're going to have you do two things here, Sedarin. You're going to read that corner, and you're going to do this, or you're going to do that, and that's all we're going to worry about in the game. And to me, I feel like that is something he can handle, and you're giving him a chance to go make plays and be, the guy that he is, which is probably among the more physically talented receivers we've seen at OU.
But remember this. This is a point I made to you. Remember 2008? You had Sam Bradford, great quarterback, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Other than Jermaine Gresham, that receiving core was junk. I mean, you had a young Ryan Broyles that wasn't Ryan Broyles yet. And, I mean, Joaquin Iglesias was a nice college player. Manny Johnson, he wasn't any good. I mean, the quarterback, as long as he has receivers that are adequate and are in the right place at the right time, you can win with that. In 2008, they scored more points than any team in the history of college football.
Yeah, and just look at what they were in this position last season as well. Everybody wanted to know who was going to step up and be Sterling Shepard, and
Nick Basquin, by the way, is a really good player for Baker.
I think that highlights the best things that Lincoln Riley does is put guys in position. Like I just don't see any situation where they can't move the football. I guess would be the best way to put it.
See, and I think 95% of the time you guys are right. But you're talking about Ohio State, who probably has better athletes than Oklahoma, which how often does OU run into that? Never. I mean, hardly ever. And Ohio State's one of the 3 or 4 teams in the country that could probably pretty easily make that distinction. And so and I understand, like, there's a risk to it, but you also have a chance to run a guy out there that is of that level that can go make plays against elite guys. And I don't know that I think Nick Basquin's a very steady player, but let's look at last year. Oklahoma at home struggled to move the ball. And that was, don't get me wrong, that secondary I think ended up with 3 first-rounders. So don't get me wrong, there's no blame in that. But Ohio State's defensive line is going to be a step faster because they're playing at home. They're not going to have to worry about, they'll have crowd noise on their side. That's going to help. I mean, there's a lot that's going to go against Oklahoma. So for me to just assume that, they're going to be okay because they've got a good quarterback. Well, they had a good quarterback last year and they fell apart.
I think the biggest difference between that team, though, at the beginning of the season was how much they gelled at the end of the season. I mean, if OU plays Ohio State again in the 11th game of the season, I think that it's a much more competitive game.
Sure.
And you didn't have a healthy D.D. Westbrook in that game either.
True.
That's a great point. Yep, you're right. I mean, but again, why would D.D. have made a difference? Because D.D.'s special. That's why you need those kind of guys. And like I said, I'm not saying Lamb's D.D. I don't want to make that, especially right now.
Is it as much D.D. being special, or is it just that D.D. had so much speed that because they had a great offensive line and they could run the ball, that he got a lot of single coverage?
Yeah, no, you're right. But, okay, so who in the run game scares Ohio State right now?
It's a good question.
They don't scare anybody because none of them played.
Nobody knows.
That's what I'm saying. So
I'll tell you this. I love Barcelia Sutton. I love that kid. I think he's going to be good.
I think, it's very easy to say that OU's offensive line is going to be so good that they cover up a lot of those issues, I think. Or is it too easy to say that?
I mean, I don't think anybody had a bigger man crush on Rodney Anderson than Josh.
Me? Oh, no. Not me. I mean, I like him from a physical standpoint. I mean, he's a big, great-looking athlete, but he's not – I never saw him as like the next Joe or, any of those elite guys. I didn't see him on that level.
He was just a nice physical back that they got.
Yeah. And I don't want it to get off as something where I don't see him. That's kind of my issue with this group of running backs. Like, I think there's a lot of pretty good to really good players in there. I don't know that I see the bell cow. I don't know that I see a guy that with the right amount of carries is a 1,500-yard back.
The name that just keeps coming up to me for wide receiver too is a guy that I think has been largely forgotten about over the summer is Michael Jones.
I was going to bring him up earlier, yeah.
I mean,
I'm a huge fan.
He was a guy that
there's going to be a jump
played as
at
a
some
freshman
point,
last season, and I would think that even though you didn't see a whole lot of him over the summer or the spring, I still think that he's a guy that obviously is extremely talented. He kind of fits that talent pool, Josh, doesn't he?
Yeah, people forget he was a Rivals 100 kid. Right. This isn't just some dude. This is to be fair, full disclosure, I was probably saying a lot of the same things about him last year that I'm saying now about, we'll have to go back and listen to the old podcast, but probably some similar storylines were emerging because we were having this conversation last year of who could be the next Sterling, and now it's who's the next Dede. So, I mean, Michael Jones is a very talented guy. People forget he was coming off a knee injury last year. That was his first. I mean, he played a little bit in high school afterward, but you could tell he wasn't right. And they always say, that second year is when everything kind of clicks back in line. And you've got to think that's him. That's going to be him now. And I mean, you're talking about a guy that's 6 foot, well put together, and can run. I mean, what's not to like about that? And he is one of those guys that's that elite athlete that I think can challenge people vertically and maybe loosen up some of those running lanes. Because I think this year it's going to be the opposite of what we've talked about, where last year you saw that offensive line come together and the ground game really took off, and it just made everything easy for Dede Westbrook. I think it's going to have to be in reverse this year. Oklahoma's going to have to get that passing game going to open up some things because everybody's going to want to crowd that run game just because, I mean, that's just the way that's going to be because of that offensive line and the things they can do.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with the running backs because we don't know about Rodney Anderson. I still love what I saw of Marcellus Sutton in the spring game, and that was even not at 100%.
As much as we give credit to the offensive line, is it a hot take to say that Dimitri Flowers could be one of the most important parts of this offense? Is that too hot?
I don't know if that's too hot.
Is there any position where OU's been that consistently good for a long period of time?
Never.
I mean, their fullbacks, just one after another, are really, really good for a decade now.
Since J.D. Runnels, yeah.
Yeah.
More than a decade.
I mean, even at running back, you had a Dominique Whaley in there who was a fine player, but not anybody really, not somebody that OU fans of years from now are going to remember. But, I mean, those guys, for 10 years, they've had fullbacks playing at all-American levels.
I mean, Aaron Murkowski is probably one of the most underrated players of the Stoops era. There's another hot take.
No, I would agree with that.
He's having a hell of a career with the Packers.
Oh, that damn fumble.
That is true.
When's the last time I'm going through the OU roster here, just making sure I'm not leaving anything out, but when's the last time anybody posted about Ricky DeBerry? Pre-spring, that was like every other post was about Ricky DeBerry.
And moving to middle linebacker, how it's going to be the next big thing.
Yeah. And it took about a week of practice for Mike Stoops to go, I don't think the kid's got a future. I mean, he didn't say that, but
he said that.
He might as well have said it.
And Rivals had him ranked really highly, so this isn't the coaches got this wrong. A lot of people got Ricky DeBerry wrong.
You were not. I can say you were
it.
not high on Ricky DeBerry.
I never was. I didn't get it. I didn't see a guy like you watch Addison Gums on film or Caleb Kelly. You're like, man, that dude's twitchy. Like the first word that comes when you look at an outside linebacker, if you know what the word twitchy means, that's what you should be thinking. If you're talking about a guy that's elite, like they change direction really naturally. They're explosive out of their breaks. Everything should look a little fast. You almost wonder if the tape sped up. And with Ricky, you were like, dude, speed that tape up. Like, maybe we need to run this a little fast because you just weren't seeing stuff. And I think he was such a big kid at an early age. and he hails from an area that tends to be very well regarded by Rivals.com. And I think some people are going to get that. I thought he was always a little overrated, and I think you go back to one of the I don't know how you want to word this, but one of the more interesting kind of backroom conversations that I heard things about was the recruitment of Ricky DeBerry. Like, I think everyone always assumes all the coaches are on the same page with everything. I can tell you flat out that was not the case with Ricky DeBerry.
Yeah,
there was a lot of differing opinion on whether he was a guy that could help OU or not.
No, I could back you up on that 100%.
Yep.
So look for.
By the way, we never mentioned Abdul Adams at all with the running backs,
and that's the guy that Lincoln Riley brings up the most. Is saying that he had the best summer out of all of them.
And you know
or
what?
Spring, I mean.
We come to find out that Abdul Adams had like a bad hamstring or something all last year. Like that's
he better have getting caught from behind.
Was that at Iowa State?
Yeah.
Of course, he didn't finish that game either. So.
Well, you mentioned you thought I was high on Rodney. Abdul Adams is a dude I was always really high on. I liked him a lot, and it shocked me when he got caught from behind because you watch his tape, and that dude in high school was all about speed. He was running away from people. And you're talking about Virginia, D.C. I mean, you're not talking about an area devoid of athletes. And he was leaving people, and you're like, well, okay, that maybe this guy really is somebody. And then he got there, and you were like, man, something doesn't look right. But I'm not saying I knew that he was injured or anything. It didn't translate. There was something missing. And now, if that's the case, I mean, if there was any guy I was going to say I could bet on him being the guy, I would bet on Abdul Adams. I like him a lot.
He is a guy that Lincoln Riley literally brings up every time the running back position is talked about, and people ask who's going to step up. They feel like he had a massive spring, and I imagine that has carried over into the summer, or else they wouldn't be talking like that.
You know what's going to be bizarre is if you give an award right now for best member of the 2017 class, it's probably a guy that's not even going to play, in Creed Humphrey.
Yeah. Creed Humphrey, or I would even go as far to say the way that Orlando Brown talks about Adrian Ely.
Yeah, Lamb and Ely and Rambo all have chances to do so. But, I mean, if you're an offensive lineman, you really don't have a chance.
No, but when you come in and you literally are the talk of spring camp as a freshman 2 weeks into your college career, and Bill Beanabos comparing you to Luis Vazquez, who is an all-pro center.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy came in and just absolutely tore it up. And, I hate being that guy, but he is so strong.
Now, one thing that was brought up, Baker said this during media days, is that Austin Kendall will be, or that Chris Robinson will be returning next week.
Yeah. And this is the final week of summer workouts for OU, so I don't think that, don't get the idea that he's coming in to pick up where, working out with the team and stuff like that.
Yeah, practice starts, they report on the 30th of this month. The practice has moved ahead a week because games have been moved up a week this year.
Gosh.
So they only have a week now. So he's going to come back while everybody else is gone? I don't get that. But maybe he means he's coming back on the 30th when everybody else reports. But it does raise the question, like, especially with Kyler Murray being gone all summer, like, is Austin Kendall going to win the backup job just by default?
It will be very interesting. I know Kyler Murray's already back in Norman. I don't know if he's back in Norman, but he's back from the Cape. That baseball summer did not go well.
When he had 170?
Yeah, he did not have a very good summer. But he's back, so it'll be interesting to see how quickly he can get kind of, I guess, accumulated back into the football realm of things.
At what point do we accept that Kyler Murray is just not a particularly special baseball player?
I will stand on this hill forever. I think his future still is in baseball.
Now, if you're gauging, like, what's he more likely to be drafted at, Major League Baseball or the NFL draft as a quarterback? It's pretty tough for me to argue with you on that because I don't think the prospects of either are very good.
But you know what? You said you would say the same thing about Cody Thomas 1 year into his college baseball career.
That's fair. No, and I get it. I think part of mine goes into, and I've talked about this before, like, You guys know who it is, but I've got some family connections that are pretty high in the baseball world. And I remember talking to them about Kyler when he was in high school, and they were like, "Yeah, his 60-yard time's amazing. He runs really well. He can't do anything else at our level." I mean, and that was literally the exact quote. And I had been under the impression like this guy's an All-American. You know, he's a great baseball player, but he gave me the impression like, yeah, that we didn't even recruit him. We weren't interested. So I kind of thought, well, okay, maybe. And now again, there are mitigating circumstances you have to understand, but I don't know. But to the bigger question, to get us back on track a little bit, do you feel like this is a situation where, okay, Baker's gone down with a considerable injury. Okay, it's Kyler Murray. Okay, Baker tweaked something. We think he's going to be fine. We're up by 40. Austin, you're going in. Like, is it that kind of deal? Like, it depends on what the scenario is?
I think you have to go through fall camp and pick a number 2 and start the season with that guy. And then if Baker goes down for the rest of the season, you put in your number 2. If that's Austin Kendall and it doesn't work out, then you go to Kyler Murray. I just think that's the way you have to do it. Especially when your head coach is an offensive coordinator that's probably done things that way his entire life.
Just hearing and this is just kind of and you always have to be careful in recruiting because things get packaged certain ways for, reasons that I don't always even know. But just listening to recruits and to some, various sources that I talk to, it sure sounds like the expectation is Kyler Murray. Like that's everything right. I've ever gathered.
No, you're right.
So now, obviously, Austin Kendall, he's the tortoise, man. He's not sexy. It's not exciting. He certainly doesn't help himself by saying crazy stuff before Ohio State games. But, just in general, he's not the sexy pick. Kyler Murray is. So I think that probably plays into it somewhat. But at the same time, like I said, everything I hear, it's almost full steam ahead with Murray.
Well, and I mean, he was the best quarterback in the spring game. Yeah. So I mean, it's not like he's getting punished for leaving and going playing baseball, but he didn't play a whole lot of football last spring, not as much as everybody else did, and he still played better than anybody else in the spring game. So that says something.
I think he's just a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal gamer that can just pick it up, and he's that guy. He's that friend that you just absolutely hate because he can just show up and do anything.
Can never beat him in like Madden or
Eddie, you wouldn't have had any friends like that, right?
No, none that can come to mind.
Yeah,
you may not drink.
So I mean, it'll be interesting, but you got to think that Austin Kendall probably did. I mean, if he's worth anything, you got to think he's gained a little bit on Kyler Murray, just being there as much as he has. But didn't look like it in the spring game.
No, and I do think that's an interesting, I guess, storyline heading into fall camp is who's going to be the number 2, because when you think about Baker Mayfield's injury history before, I'm not prone to get injured, but he has missed some time before. And you lose Baker Mayfield and the face of the season changes drastically.
Yeah, Trevor Knight almost comes in and lose you a 21-point lead or 24-point lead.
Who would have known that he just I'm so interested in Trevor Knight's love life right now that it
because of his super hot girlfriend.
Yeah, it almost overshadows everything that he ever did on the field. It almost overshadows the Sugar Bowl.
I was going to say that's the biggest trophy he's ever won. That is serious.
Yes,
he can just get anything he wants.
Oh, I think the line of thinking that he could be on The Bachelor one day is
right there.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to see it. He'd have a hard time
taking him back to the family, and
he'd have a hard time, with.
I hope Connor sabotages it
with all his mission work, banging chick after chick on The Bachelor, though.
Maybe that's what he's teaching all the kids. This is how you become a. This is maybe he's doing more. You know what? This is what it is.
Look, I mean,
he's teaching these kids everything they know about missionary.
Oh my God!
I mean, he's dated some of the hottest women on the planet. He's a serial dater. I mean,
philanderer.
Yes, I mean,
I respect the hell out of it, Trevor.
don't hate the player, hate the game.
Exactly.
Okay, so privately, I think we all have our assumptions that maybe the reputation is a little squeakier than it is in reality.
He's banging his way through Instagram. That's what he's doing.
I wouldn't argue that point at all. But do I think that Trevor wants to present that? No. As such, could he fulfill the Bachelor's need for raciness? Like,
I think
they're
he
like,
could.
we don't want you leading prayer group, bud.
Yeah.
We want you,
Dude.
into the girls' quarters here or whatever. I've
You
never
went
watched
into
The Bachelor,
the
so I don't know how that
fantasy
works.
suite. We're not going to have a daily devotional this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the spin that could have, though.
He's banging for Jesus.
BFJ.
That's the pod's hashtag banging for Jesus.
BFJ. Hashtag BFJ. I'm gonna just tweet the hashtag right
Then
now.
why did God give me a penis? Like this, they're gonna have to add a book to the Bible for Trevor. How do we always get
Eddie
into
has
religion?
tweeted it.
The Book of Reagan?
The book of Rakin?
Yeah, San Antonio Reagan High School.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Reagan raging something.
I was
No,
thinking more
there's
like,
Hey,
rat
J. Brent
loose.
Clark, quit tweeting me. I don't care that that Jim Ross stands on the sidelines. Like I'm
oh,
not
it's
gonna.
J. Brent Clark that's mad about
Yeah, I
it?
told him he's an idiot.
Leave J. Brent Clark alone.
He said I'm great at insults, poured information.
The guy's written like 4 OU books, novels, whatever.
Don't buy them. Don't read them. Don't give any more money to him.
He's always retweeting PETA into my timeline. I'll give
Oh. He's a PETA guy?
that. Yes.
No wonder he's such a loser.
He's not a loser. I'm pretty sure he's an attorney, and
He's an activist. Writer. Activist.
He Carey, I mean, you've already kind of stepped into this because he does have activist on his Twitter page.
I had no idea you were talking about J. Brent Clark this entire time.
Eddie, this is what
Did you know who J. Brent Clark even was?
No, I don't care who he is.
Video guys. It's video guys for you.
Maybe he should write about it.
I
A
think
whole
I have
book
one of his.
devoted
I think
to
I
why
have
is
one
Jim
of his
Ross on the
books.
sidelines.
I think one of his books is in this room. Probably.
If I can find it, I'm going to burn it before we get done. We'll do it on Periscope.
You know what I really researched on the internet yesterday? You know, I was talking to somebody about they were thinking about getting a Roomba.
What was that?
You know, the iRobot, the vacuum cleaner.
Oh, yeah.
I think I want to get like the lawnmower version of that.
Do they have one?
Oh yeah, they got
Yeah.
lots of them.
Really?
What they do is they bury some wire at the edge of your yard so it knows not to cross it. But yeah, it comes out, mows your yard for you. Mm-hmm. They're not cheap.
Now, Honda makes one, and I only know that because I just bought myself a new Honda mower, not an electric one. I'm a weird person who actually likes mowing my yard. So
I just
that
gave
was
my dad my Honda mower, so
love. I couldn't be more excited about my lawnmower. It rained on me the last 2 times I was trying to mow, and I just continued with the mowing because I was just pissed off.
I'm really interested in that though.
No, I have we have a RoboVac in our downstairs, and it is worth its weight in gold. So, especially with little kids crawling around, drooly mouths, that will keep some dog hair off their face, which is just not an attractive look.
By the
Laney had a
way,
beard.
let me say this. We didn't say it on the last podcast. Congratulations to one Josh McQuistion. He has knocked up his wife once again. Congratulations, Josh.
Thank you.
Your
Congrats
penis-
on the sex.
Your penis works.
I just see the GIF of oh damn it.
GIF.
Yeah. How do you say that? That's a good talk. That's
it's really the inventor says it's GIF, but the
Okay.
world says it's GIF.
I just say
Okay.
the thing. Did you see that thing?
I said GIF for a long time because I didn't know the answer, and I was like, I don't want to be wrong on this.
I've said
so,
GIF since like 1996.
Gifts
so.
are just meant to not be said. It's just experience it.
So you had a story there you were developing, Josh?
I had a story I was developing. No, yeah, just
you could picture a certain GIF.
yeah, Carey Carey. God, I'm butchering this whole thing. Eddie said congrats on the sex, and it made me think of, I put one up the other day because there was a guy on the board talking about taking his girlfriend out on his third, or like they've been dating for like a month, and he was determined they were going to have sex that night, and I'd put up a GIF from that, the Saturday Night Live, I just had sex, and it was a cake that had congrats on the sex on it.
Yeah, Akon's on that song. It's a good song.
Yes. That they make hilarious stuff. Like almost everything they do is really, really funny. So, but no,
they won't let me. They won't let me play that on the radio.
Really?
Yeah, because I put my penis inside her part.
Oh yeah, that seems reasonable. That's probably a lot. I think we've just passed our all-time penis high. That's 3 now. We've had 3 in this podcast, so that's way to go us.
It's a human. It's penises and vaginas. Got to be comfortable with them. So,
at this pace, it's going to be a new part.
Okay, so how long until you find out the sex of not when you're having sex again, but when you find out the sex of the baby?
Well, this will be our last one. So, at this point, it's just all for show. At this point,
are you getting tied up after this?
Yes, we're all done on that front. We talked a lot about Blaney being an only child.
Well,
no. Well,
Scoop
the lead
HD
will stay in this pencil, but
I was going to say Scoop HD could come and document all of this.
I think Tiffany might be against that with her having the work done, but no, we will know in about 3 weeks. She'll be 18 weeks tomorrow actually. So that is we've got about 2 more weeks to find out, and then start planning rooms and all the crazy stuff. We've already started buying all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's. You kind of forget, and it's one of those things where we're really excited, but at the same time, you're like, man, we were through all this. Laney's potty trained. Like, life was getting kind of easy. And then you're like, and we're going to go through the sleepless nights again and all that stuff.
So did you try on this one, or was it an unexpected pregnancy?
No. We had decided there was a conversation that Laney needed a sibling. As we're both only children and both totally fine with being only children, I don't really know why we felt that way. I say we because, when you're married, everything is we. But it wasn't really my opinion that she needed a sibling. So,
but Laney kept after it.
Yeah, Laney kept pushing. It was a strong Laney agenda. And as usual, Laney gets what she wants. So
now, is she still back and forth on whether she wants a brother or sister? Because I think you told me she wanted a sister, but then she changed her mind at some point.
Literally, the day that you and I talked about it was the only day, and she told multiple people that day it was going to be a brother, and she wanted a brother. And in the entire time she's known about the pregnancy, which is about a month now, she has said sister every time. Like if we say, we'll be talking about, got to be careful with Tiffany's tummy or, mommy's tummy, whatever. And she'll be like, well, why? And, well, because your brother or sister in there. And she's like, sister. She'll correct you every stinking time. She does not play around about it. So, but, she's really excited about it. She sings songs to it. I mean, she's really into it. So, she calls it her baby. So it's kind of, we'll see it now when mom and dad's attention is divided, we will see how she feels about that.
There's some jealousy there.
Yeah, but for now, we're jacked about it, which is, all you can hope for.
And your dogs, they reacted well to Laney, right?
One of them did. We have a black lab and we have an Australian Shepherd. Our Australian Shepherd has just now, and like I told you guys before we started, Laney's 3rd birthday is actually tomorrow. Our Australian Shepherd can now be in the same room with Laney and not act like his hair's on fire. Our black lab from day one, she's like a lab. She licks on her. She thinks Laney's great, lets her lay on her and stuff. There's no real problems there. The Shepherd, he follows me around all the time and doesn't really like for anything to ever change. So when she came home, he was like, no. And now we're going to bring home another one, and he's our younger one. So he'll have more time with that baby, and will really hate us for it.
All right. Okay, let's talk some recruiting here. But Sooners pick up a big commitment this week. Josh, tell us all about it.
Well, again, just to make sure we cover the bases for everybody out there, Jaquaylin Crawford, wide receiver, kind of slot guy from Rockdale, Texas, which is kind of Syntex area. A guy that I love. Frankly, we were talking a little bit earlier about, there are times when I just see things differently than rivals. We've got him as a 4-star athlete, and I think that's fine. The athlete designation, he could play. OU's recruited him at wide receiver, but he could play corner. So if things, if a Micaiah Quick situation were to come up, I think he'd be fine making that move.
Does he play quarterback for them sometimes too?
He did at a 7-on-7 event I was at. I think that had a lot to do with him playing or him having kind of a hamstring issue.
Oh, okay.
But he can play it, and it's we talked about it at the time. It's so weird for a guy, your best athlete at 7-on-7 to be playing quarterback. It's the one time it doesn't make any sense because they can't run. It makes sense on Friday night, but no. So he is a guy as a sophomore, won Texas 3A state in the 100 meters with like a 10.53. So that kind of gives you an idea. This is a guy with elite speed. He's probably a very legitimate 4.4 kind of guy. So he can stretch the field. I've talked to him before. I think Oklahoma kind of sold him on the idea of doing some things that were kind of similar to D.D. Westbrook, kind of doing some Sterling Shepard things with him. And really, that's what he talked about. I asked him, who is the coach that is your primary contact? Who do you talk to the most? It was for him, it's Lincoln Riley. And I can tell you guys, that's never, ever – I've never had that happen in my career covering Oklahoma, that the head coach was the primary contact. So this kind of tells you how things are changing. Lincoln Riley's, if he needs to be the lead guy, man, he'll jump in and be that lead guy. And he talked about, when he went up to OU a couple of months ago now, really just liking the way they sold him on, this is our plan for you, and they kind of had video and showed him, okay, this is what we're going to do with you. This is how we see you being, you fitting into our offense. And he said he went to other places and they kind of told him things, but he felt like OU had a real clear plan of what it was going to be. And again, this is a guy, 5'11", 165, and can absolutely fly. So I personally, I think he's a top 250 guy in the country, maybe even a little better than that, maybe a 150 kind of guy. He's a special talent. And you watch him on his tape, all he does is score touchdowns and make big plays. He is just constantly around the ball.
And he's pretty, I was kind of surprised. He is not a thin guy, even though he's 165. He's developed, I guess. That's the word I'm looking for.
When I saw him at 7-on-7, and that was the first week of June, for those that don't know, Texas State 7-on-7 is a big deal, and they all roll out. It's a really big deal across the state of Texas. It's kind of the kickoff of the upcoming football season, and that was my first thought too. Carey, was he's a lot bigger than I thought he was. I thought I was going to get there, and he was 5'9", kind of lanky, just wasn't going to be that well put together, but. He's 5'10 plus. He's every bit as tall as Sterling Shepard was, and is, in my opinion, probably a little more physically developed than Sterling was at the same point in time. So I think, he's got a lot to learn. He plays at a small school, so he kind of gets by on just being a great athlete. He's not a traditional route runner yet. I think that was something that stood out to me. We talked earlier about Eddie talking with Baker. He talked about Charleston Rambo being a great route runner, and that comes from being at a great program where he was very well coached, like Cedar Hill. At Rockdale, it's not that Crawford's poorly coached. It's just a different level of football. He doesn't have to be that precise to be great, and that's really what it comes down to. But once he gets in, starts working with Cale Gundy and Dennis Simmons, I think he could end up being one of those guys we look back on and say, you talked earlier about who's the best 2017 guy. It wouldn't shock me if this time next year we're kind of having that conversation about Crawford for 2018.
I'm just looking at the commitment list. 7 commitments in June during a coaching change. That's just unbelievable. And then you start out, July, midway through July with another commitment. Sooners up to number 6 nationally in rivals. But I know you were talking the other day, Josh. I hadn't even paid attention to this, but it's going to be tough for Oklahoma to crack into the top 5 right now.
Well, it is, just because of, you look at the top 5, there's already a huge gap between 5 and 6. Oklahoma would have to go land, a 5-star kind of guy to bridge that gap and make that move. Now, maybe that happens. And obviously Oklahoma can get some help from guys like Bray Walker making a move up after a really good week at the opening. TJ Pledger could move up. Whatever it may be, there are guys there that could help them without even having to pick up another commitment. But yeah, it was just a crazy month. But the thing, and we talked about it a little bit, it's changed a little bit because I kind of thought by this time Oklahoma might be done, or at least very, very close to being done with their offensive recruiting. They lost out on Anthony McKinney to TCU, so now they kind of have to rethink things at tackle. I still think they're in very good shape with Darrell Simpson. I kind of get the impression that maybe he's a guy that could do something at the barbecue. I don't know that, just kind of reading the tea leaves, I guess you'd say. But with that, offense is largely handled, regardless of how you want to look at it. If there's 2 or 3 spots, whatever, it's now defense. Oklahoma's got to figure out what's going on with guys like Ronnie Perkins, Bobby Brown, who will be at the barbecue, the big defensive end that I think kind of had gotten a little distant with OU, and I think now is starting to pick things back up in the right direction. Oklahoma's got to figure some things out at linebacker where there just doesn't seem to be a lot of options that seem very realistic right now. Brian Asamoah will be at the barbecue. He's a guy from Ohio that I think Oklahoma would definitely take a commitment from. And then in the secondary, where Oklahoma does have multiple commitments, there's a good chance that none of those guys end up at OU and that the entire defensive back class could be different come signing day than it looks right now, which I don't know that I would say that's likely, but it's possible just because of Jordan Austin's kind of a question mark with his injuries. Miguel Edwards is a Florida guy. We, kind of saw that play out with Trajan Bandy last year. You can go down the list. There's a lot of reasons why that could change. Now, I should take that back. Patrick Fields is going to be part of this signing class. So let me clarify that. That would have been a bad mistake. But other than that, there's a lot of volatility in how that DB class could play out.
What about Starlin Baldwin?
For a long time, that kind of felt like maybe A&M was going to make a run. That's kind of cooled down now, but he's a North Houston guy. I mean, for those that aren't familiar, he's from Cypress, Texas, which is about a 45-minute drive to College Station. I mean, it's a real simple trip, just literally his local highway. You head up, turn on one highway, and you're headed into College Station. So, I mean, it's very direct, very easy. And I think if A&M wanted to turn up that heat, then maybe things could get interesting. But at the same time, if A&M does turn that up, well, then it goes into the season. And if what I think is going to happen at A&M happens, then it probably is all for naught. So I think that's starting to simmer down a little bit. But Baldwin's a kid that I think he'll take some visits. I think he'll look around, and anytime that's going on, you have to say, there's a possibility of something going wrong.
It seems to me, just from recent retweets and things, that TJ Pledger is back comfortable being an OU guy.
I think that's fair. Again, another guy that I think will take some visits. I bet he takes an official to Nebraska. He's got, obviously one of his good buddies, Brendan Radley Hiles, is going to go up there for a visit. Now, if I'm Oklahoma, I'm trying to turn that into a, tit for tat. Okay, you tell Brendan you'll go to OU, but you tell Brendan he's got to come, or you'll go to Nebraska, but you tell Brendan he's got to come visit us, and try to make that work that way, because Radley Hiles is one of the better corners in the country, and, along with Pledger is at IMG. So it's, like I said, there is a lot of stuff where if Oklahoma misses out on a player here or there, they're going to have to start making some decisions, because like earlier this week, we haven't talked about it, they missed out on Curtis Dunlap, who committed to Florida. Not one of those weird deals where Dunlap really kind of said all the right things, but he always talked about he wanted to major in oceanography. Well, that was never going to happen at Oklahoma, so I don't ever understood. I could never kind of get my head around some of the things he was saying in regard to his OU interest, but yet how serious he was about that oceanography degree. So that was always trouble. But I think Tank Jenkins, the offensive lineman that Eddie and I saw in Indianapolis, he should be coming up for a visit here at some point in the next week, 10 days, maybe even for the barbecue. I'm still kind of trying to nail that down. But if that's the case, it wouldn't shock me if he jumped on board, though Auburn is starting to make a run at him. So if they lose out on him, and then obviously having already lost out on McKinney, they're going to have to start making some decisions of what they want to do with their numbers. Do we want to take another interior guy? Are we bound to we have to have an inside guy in this class? Or was it just, if they're good enough, we'll take them, and if not, we'll use that scholarship somewhere else?
We went to St. Louis, and everything seemed really good for OU with Ronnie Perkins, defensive lineman. And I know there's been a lot of panic about him recently. What's happened there with Ronnie Perkins, kid out of St. Louis?
Well, let me just take a moment to say that on the board, there are some people that you referenced earlier that are super excited we're talking this much recruiting. So that's you have filled your quota, Carey. Everybody's going to be happy with you this week. But no,
I aim to please.
I know you do. I know you
They'll
do.
find another reason to cry.
Stop it.
Why, Eddie? All right. No, with Perkins,
just terrorize J. Brent Clark, okay?
Yeah, just yell at him.
I'm
just
going to
DM him
I
or
doubt he's
something.
a subscriber
I'm
anymore.
going to crush him.
With Perkins, yeah, everything seemed great. He was really adamant. I mean, you guys were there when we did that interview, and he was talking about couldn't wait to get down to OU. And, I kind of asked him point blank at the time, if you go down there, are you thinking about making a decision? And he wouldn't really say yes, but he sure didn't say no. So
And he was going to come. He was going to come that one time with Trevor Trout, and then he didn't.
And then that didn't happen because Trevor was going to stay a little longer than Ronnie could stay. And then, like a week ago, he was going to go to Texas. And then I talked to our guys at Orange Bloods, and he's already confirmed he's not taking that trip. This is just a kid that doesn't have a lot of means to travel. Everybody freaked out a couple weeks ago when there was talk of, like I said, the Texas visit. And then a few days later, well, he's going to go to Ohio State. Well, it was just his coach saying, we hope he can get up there. I will be pretty surprised if Ronnie Perkins goes anywhere outside of about 100-mile radius of his high school right now. He's probably going to wait till his official visits. I feel about as confident as any player I could name that Oklahoma will get one of his official visits. And at that time, then Oklahoma has a chance to kind of lay out the red carpet and, build on that relationship. I can tell you for a long time, he has given OU a really strong indication of his interest, kind of even going back to, I talked to some people right after the Ron Tatum thing happened, when Tatum originally committed to Texas. He gave some indication of I thought I was going to play with that dude. And he's not talking about it Texas. He was talking about it Oklahoma. So there is plenty of reason to think Oklahoma's still in a good spot with him. And I know it's tough for some people to understand, especially people that have, and the people we're thankful for, Eddie, that have the money to spend on a message board and pay our salaries. We appreciate that. But not everyone has that kind of money. And I know $10 isn't what I'm talking about, but not everyone has the money to go travel and see 50 different schools and do all this stuff during the summer. Some can't even go to see one, man. That happens a lot. And I think that's just what this comes down to, is this is a kid that just can't go everywhere he wants to go. So he'll wait, take official visits, and I think Oklahoma will go into that as probably his favorite.
Let me ask you, any kind of feedback at all about Ruffin McNeill with kids? I mean, I know Trevor Trout got to come in right as he got hired, but any feedback on what kind of impact he's made on recruiting up to this point?
No, and I kind of keep waiting to just stumble onto something, because I don't really know. That's always one of the first things you want to find out is what area is he going to recruit? Where's he responsible for? And I'm sure to a large degree he's probably been given, the Carolinas and Virginia and that kind of stuff. But, I mean, let's be real. Oklahoma is going to be a true contender for about one player every 3 years out in that area. It's just not a place they recruit a lot and not a place they're going to have a lot of success. So you've got to kind of figure out where his area is going to be, and I don't even know if that's completely clear yet with that exception. Now, they'll give him somewhere in Texas because he's on OU staff, and you pretty much have to have a place in Texas. So, and obviously he has connections there, so that it's not all bad on that front. So I haven't heard a lot on that, but, I mean, again, I kind of go back to everybody I've talked to, just what a relationship builder he is. So I don't know if he's a guy that's going to come in and make a big splash and really change things for, some guy that maybe OU was on the outs with. But if you'll give him time and let him, let a family get to know him, kind of some of those things, I think he's a guy that maybe in years to come could pull some surprises here and there where, a mom fell so in love with Ruffin McNeill that they were more comfortable with him than maybe another option, that kind of thing. He's that kind of recruiter. He's not a splashy guy. He's not going to, write a kid 75 letters in a day to make him. He's just going to be a constant. I think that's something that has its place. You don't want every guy on your staff to be that way, but I think as time goes on, you'll see him be a steady recruiter.
I did notice, Josh Proctor is a guy up in Owasso, safety. Everybody's known about him forever. Committed to Ohio State, and you got this indication like OU was making some really good inroads, and I noticed him tweeting the other day about taking a trip back to Columbus. Anything you can tell us there, and is OU still feeling like they're making some inroads?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma still feels like they're in a good spot. This, not to upset everybody, this reminds me a little bit of the Jacob Phillips situation in reverse last year. Now, I don't know that it's going to turn out that well for the newcomer in the recruitment, or, well, I don't know. I guess the school that he's not committed to is an easier way to say that. But I do feel like Josh is saying some things kind of publicly, and then I talk to people, and privately the conversations are a little different. Now, it's not like he's told Oklahoma he's coming or anything like that. I don't want people to get the wrong impression. But I do think he is more open to what OU's pitching him than maybe he wants to present publicly, which is understandable. So I think that's what this is going to come down to. Now, who knows? He may go up to Columbus this weekend and decide, this is why I fell in love with this place. This is where I want to be, and kind of say he's going to shut it down again. I think he is going to be a guy, though, that until signing day, there's going to be a lot of talk. But privately, I continue to hear good things. I know it's been reported he'll be at the barbecue this weekend. I think it's about a 50-50 shot. I know there are people that are willing to take him. I actually spoke with some of Josh's family members, and I got the impression that there may be some things going on within their family that may make it to where they can't go to the barbecue next weekend. Now, maybe he'll go with Pat Fields, or maybe he'll do something else on his own, but I don't get the impression that that's a certainty that he's going to make that trip next weekend.
By the way, I do know, I was told last night, in terms of the barbecue coming up, they're going to have that indoors. I think I've said that before. So they don't have to worry about, people freaking out because it's so hot. But the other thing is they've started...
No water balloon fight this year?
I don't know. Maybe they could go outside. Maybe they could do it in the south end zone, like with the overhang and stuff.
They should have guys throwing kegs off the top of the east side.
I think that's an NCAA violation.
To throw a keg off the off our upper deck?
A bunch of 18-year-olds with beer.
It doesn't have to have beer in it. We're talking about keg throwing.
What does that do?
It's man shit.
But they are they have gotten all the wraps and stuff for the walls, so they're installing that stuff now, which will make it look wrappy. I'm sure they'll have plenty of. Hopefully, it'll be good. I'll say this: what I'm learning about Lincoln Riley, and I know I put a tweet out about this the other day about they don't have a full-time like Lincoln Riley video staff, but they've been kind of freelancing with some guys to do videos just for Lincoln Riley to put out on his account, like that one from Big 12 Media Days. They've got a real good control on what they want things to look like, what they want their recruiting materials. Like you've seen the Watch This stuff that they've been sending out with all the watch list stuff. Those have been really cool, but they've hired a new full-time graphics guy in the department just for Lincoln Riley, just for the football department, because a lot of times they have to share creatives with like Sooner Sports TV and that stuff, and they're trying to kind of build their own in-house video and graphics department to kind of get their message and their image out there the way that they want it. And what they've done, I've been really impressed with so far. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it on social media.
I think it's been great. I don't think that there's any doubt that the Lincoln Riley era will be up to speed as far as social media and interaction with fans goes. I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, they're really sharp. They know what they're doing. I think we're going to have to put the eye emojis in our logo now. So instead of where Boomer and Sooner, the two O's, have to make those eyes.
They should just have two eye emojis instead of the
Sooner
actual
Scoop,
Boomer and Sooner.
Sooner or Scoop.
Well, I'm all for eliminating Boomer and Sooner. Those horses.
The horse pigs.
Yeah. They should just have two eyeballs.
Eddie actually, I should say this, Eddie actually admired a mascot during Big 12 Media Days.
Yeah, Willie the Wildcat looks like he's on steroids.
Willie the Wildcat is jacked,
Been
dude.
hanging out with Amani Bledsoe.
I've got steroids I can give you if you really...
He doesn't need them anymore. He could walk
It's all those
on.
damn push-ups.
It really is. That's what I said. But like the Iowa State mascot is so sad. It literally looks like... I don't want to be too crass or politically incorrect, but he looks like... Did you ever grow up with like twins that didn't look alike? Did you ever have those in your school? Like they're, what do they call those, non-fraternal twins?
Mm-hmm.
And it's always like, you could tell one of them didn't get as many nutrients as the other one when they were in their womb.
I don't know about that.
That's kind of like the cyclone bird. I don't even know why it's a bird. Why is it a bird?
Let's just put it bluntly. I have no respect for people that have decided to be mascots.
Doesn't shock me.
I don't like talking to them. I don't like looking at them.
You're really rude to Boomer and Sooner when they just try and give you a high five and stuff.
I don't high five mascots.
I'll stand by Eddie on that one.
Look, you think that's not embarrassing for them? Like,
No, they signed up for it. They want to do that. You don't get paid to do it.
well, people like being mimes too.
Another group of the loser family.
Just how about buskers? People that play guitar out in front of, like in subways.
Those people are trying to make a living.
So those people are higher up on the Eddie chain than mascots.
Yes. They're trying to make money.
Mascots or mimes?
That's how they get found.
Which are lower, mascots or mimes?
I'd go mimes.
The lowest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
At least
they got-
mascots have the decency to hide their face.
yeah.
And they can take it off.
Except for the West Virginia guy.
Yeah. That's more of I would consider that in the roughnecks category though, right?
He's got a weapon.
He has a weapon.
That's why you're making allowances.
Well, I mean, it's a fake gun. Let's be
No,
honest.
the one guy killed a bear with it.
That's not the one that he carries around.
No, it's a real musket.
I don't believe it.
They killed a bear with it.
At a game?
No, like out in the woods. And West Virginia told him, stop doing that.
Not buying it.
And let's be honest, it's West Virginia. That dude came out of the womb looking like that. So he just put on an outfit. It's no big deal.
Yeah, it's just they just say, are you skinny and are you hairy? Then you're our mascot.
Those are the two qualifications.
Can you wear our chaps or whatever those things are? Handmade loincloth.
They should just like leave them for a weekend and all they give them are supplies to make meth. And then they come back on Sunday and they're like,
That's the real mountaineer?
if you have a bunch of crystal ready, they're like, you're hired.
No, it's moonshine. Isn't
Or
It's just
moonshine.
moonshine, not meth. They don't do meth in West Virginia.
Oh my God, yeah, they do.
Probably comes in from Pennsylvania, though.
It would be like
I'd
if
agree with
Alabama had a human mascot that just did the hair, that same comb thing they all do with the feathered kind of like
Bangs.
left to right. Look, yeah, the huge bangs that hang out over. That every white boy in Alabama wears their hair like that.
Georgia,
so
too. Blaine Brown has
Georgia's
that
really
hair.
bad too. You're right.
Our boy Blaine Brown has that hair.
Oh God. I think it
come-
may be like the draft. They may legally have to until they're like 25.
Blaine wants to come to a podcast. He's in town.
Oh man,
You won't let Blaine come to a podcast?
no, never.
What if I invite him without telling you?
If he's here when I got here, I'd just go home.
I don't think you would. I think you would take advantage of the chance to just burn him at the stake.
Don't you think it'd be fun to interview Blaine?
No.
Just why about the fake moderator thing?
No, because it's
About
not funny.
coming to Oklahoma and working for Al, why he did it.
Why are you a loser? Would be my
He's
my
not a
number
loser.
one question.
Eddie, you're a jerk.
It's fine. I think people know they get what they get.
Apparently he's done a really good job
At answering phone calls,
booking guests for Al.
I've done that, Eddie. It's not for Al. I've done the intern gig at the Animal. It's not a fun job. It's not hard, but it's not fun.
Well, it's not fun at the morning show because you're hanging out with Muffin the whole time. hearing her stories about what football player she was banging at the time.
Oh, there was really only one player there was always a story about.
Did he have initials?
He did have initials. You know exactly who I'm talking about.
I'm going to get in trouble if I keep going down this road.
I might get in trouble from both parties. So I still hear from both
You
parties.
still hear from Muffin?
From time to time.
Is she still married to the bass player?
I believe that is correct.
Living in Wichita Falls?
Last I saw was Lawton.
Okay. Oof. That's almost a death sentence. Sorry, Lawton.
I don't know if Wichita Falls or Wichita is worse.
I bet Wichita Falls is worse because Wichita's at least got Taco Tico. I know you guys don't care about that, but all right. Any other business before we close this thing out?
Yeah, I have a sidey, just a side topic that came up on the board this week, and I thought we all needed to cover it because I don't know this answer to either one of you two. There was a lot of conversation about cologne and cologne usage.
Okay.
Are you cologne guys? Do you wear cologne?
I don't own any cologne. I did in junior high.
I own probably 4 bottles.
I got the impression. Polo.
Wow. See, I never thought of it as like a because the conversation on the board was very much like if I wore cologne, I needed to have a gold chain. And I was like, man, I've never worn a necklace. Well, okay, other than high school, I've never worn a necklace and never wore one that didn't have shells on it.
So the majority of people think that cologne is bad.
Yes. I did not know that. That was news to me. I was very interested to hear the takes on this.
I cologne when I'm going somewhere nice. Like if I'm
Eddie
wearing a
brings
suit,
cologne to
if I'm wearing a suit or like going out or something, I'll spray a little cologne. Nothing obnoxious though.
No, I would
and
say
only good smells.
Your cologne smells good.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's expensive.
Wow, it's not odorous or offensive.
I try not to do things that would reflect as being poor.
Oh, that sentence was so perfectly crafted, Eddie. I'm not sure.
I mean, look, I have no problem with cologne as long as it's not offensive to me.
Yeah.
Like, if I went to Dillard's and I smelled some cologne I really like the smell of, I would probably buy it.
Okay.
I will say there is nothing worse, though, than somebody that wears cologne that it's like you can smell him from like a week away. Like you know what you get with this guy. He's gonna load up on the cologne and the
smells like Bigfoot's dick.
Yeah, something like that. 50.
There's always that guy.
40% of the time it works every time.
60% of the time it works every time.
Sex Panther. But there's always that guy at the gym that thinks he can mask that his BO is wretched.
Well,
by putting too much cologne on, or But again, I could do a whole podcast just on the disgusting things people do at the gym. But that's another time.
I think that's another rule too. You can't wear cologne if you're going to a place where you're going to sweat. Like wearing cologne to go play golf is a big no-no. Going to the gym wearing cologne's a big no-no.
Stupid. Yeah.
Or to the pool. Stuff like that
when
it's going to be of no use or value.
I will say this though, like I think when we were all growing up and like in junior high and stuff, like there weren't all the there was just like degree or right guard or whatever. There weren't so many different odors of deodorant.
Yeah. And there are a ton.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
Like I just go to the Dollar General to get all my stuff because I'm a single guy, so I get my toilet paper, my paper towels, my cologne, my shampoo, my hair gel, whatever. But even at Dollar General, they have like 50 different kinds of Old Spice smelling deodorant, 50 different ones. Like it's ridiculous.
See, I'll even go a step further. I'll go deodorant and body spray.
That's wrong.
I like to have body spray in the car, especially like when we're out at like like we go to a football practice or Eddie, you and I are running around or something. It's nice to have it hit yourself with just a little above it. Like, okay, if there was a little odor going on, okay, I might have cured this for a little while. Because I mean, you don't want to like you don't want to be that dude. You don't want to be stinky. I can't go and take a shower in between every practice I go to.
See, I'm wearing Old Spice Fresh. I took a shower before Eddie came over, and I just enjoy the smell of it.
Do I need to come over and smell you to confirm this for our listeners?
If you want to, you can just lift up my arm or something.
I'm wafting.
Here, hold on. I'll just lean over.
Yeah, that doesn't smell bad.
It's a pleasant smell.
It's a pleasant smell. I don't understand the people that go like, I've never understood the people that you can tell like don't shower daily, and I take like 2-3 showers a day.
You do. You ruin all the towels in the hotel room. Eddie uses them all up.
Got to stay clean. Got to stay clean.
Plus, I never do this, and I always want to do it because I'm cheap. And Eddie and I are both snorers, so we're compatible on the road. Like, I don't know that I've ever been as compatible with someone on the road as I am with Eddie, which is weird to admit now that I just came out of my mouth. But like, here's how strange it is. Like, I'll even share the soap. Like, not at the same time, but like, I don't like, I always, when I check into a hotel, I think to myself, well, I should call down and get extra soap and extra shampoo. And I'm too lazy and I never do that. But if Eddie gets in the shower before me, like usually with most people, if I just didn't like him, I'd be like, I'm not using that soap. I'd call down right then. But like, I'll just bite the bullet and I'll share the soap.
If there's another,
I'll just wash it and clean it. Yeah.
Yeah. If there's extra soap,
well, like the next day when they
Yeah.
bring another soap, then it was only a one-time
Right.
deal. So
I've just never really. It's soap. I guess that's. It's kind of weird, but it's like, shouldn't it always be clean? If
But
it's
see,
soap?
here's what I do with soap. I go chest, torso, arms, face, and the last thing I do is man region.
That's why I take a shower first. I go man region and then just get out of the shower and then come out. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But see, that's why the first time I get in the shower, that's why I do chest and arms, because if there's any man region juices left, you're getting it out on the parts
Right.
of your body
Right.
that aren't.
Well, and I mean, if there's, if there was, I won't use a what am I trying to think of?
You got pubes all over there?
Yeah, like I wouldn't use that.
No. And I check that.
I'm a big fan of the body wash though in a hotel. Body wash.
Yeah.
Body wash is good.
I've never been able to pull off body wash. I guess I've never had the right scrubber.
See, that comes into another etiquette question of hands, or do you use?
I can't use body wash with hands. Like, it's
do you
just,
use a?
I feel
cloth?
unclean.
Yeah.
And I'm not using a cloth because people jerk off into those.
Well, I
go
hotels.
past the cloth.
I would hope that
they
they clean.
I don't even think it's a loofah, but I've got the scrubber type thing that it's like a 2-sided deal.
Yeah,
one side
I need to try one of
the other
those.
side's for my face.
And see, in my guest bedroom, I just installed a new shower head that it's like you pull out. It has a cord on it, so you can pull it out of the wall, but yet the ring is still going. And I need to replace that in my bathroom too.
That's literally what we're putting into our master bathroom, Carey. So I will give strong reviews on that. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Next time you're up here, you just need to come over and get it done. Aren't you doing all the construction yourself, Josh?
I am, and literally we have to caulk the shower, and then it's literally ready to use, which is...
Is that like the worst thing that you can do on a Saturday, is knowing that you have to get... Because I have a buddy that's redoing his entire floors, and he's putting in like wood floors, paneling.
Tile is the
worst.
worst.
It's like the worst thing I've ever
done
heard
wood
of.
floors many times.
Really?
And it's a pain in the ass, but it's doable.
Yeah.
But tile is a pain in the ass.
The problem with tile compared to wood, like wood, you do it and you're kind of done. Like, I mean, like you fix them together, or, you know, if
But
they
then
have
you got to do the
interlocking
grout.
joints.
Yeah, you got to do the grout after you
whatever.
put it in there.
But with tile, like you get the tile up, well, then you got to grout it. Well, then you got to clean the grout. Well, then there's all these steps, and you keep thinking you're done, and there's still one more thing you got to do. And like I said, right now, we've got to change all the fixtures in because we've just kind of got like stoppers on, you know, like the shower head so that water won't run and that kind of stuff. But once we just caulk all the seams, man, it's pretty much done. So it's like I said, this has been a lot of weekends spent on doing this. So I will send a picture when it's done because I am more than a little bit proud of it. So,
Well, I'm spending this weekend replacing my garbage disposal because it's got a hole in it.
oh, that's nasty.
Yeah, it sucks.
All right. Well, I took us off of that cologne, but I had to get that one
No,
in.
it's okay. We needed a 2-hour
Good,
podcast.
It's a good talking point. I think it's very intriguing.
I think we're all on the same page. We're decent humans.
I don't think cologne's a bad thing. I'll say that.
It's not like I took us off on a bow hunting tangent.
Yeah.
You think you could shoot a bow and arrow?
No.
I didn't either.
I just I've probably
had my
shot
bruise.
I've probably shot a gun once in my life. I have no interest really
Shooting a
in
gun is fun.
the outdoors.
Shooting a gun is really fun.
Outdoor aspects, I guess.
You never go to like a gun range?
No.
You ever done that, Josh?
Oh, guys, I own a gun.
Okay.
Yeah, so I go fairly regularly and shoot. So
I love it.
When I bought it, I
You also
really
live in
meant
Houston.
to,
You have to be ready.
Yeah. Oh no, dude, it had never crossed my mind to buy a handgun before I lived in Houston, and now I'm like, yep, I got one.
So you got like a clip or a revolver?
I've got a clip. I bought a nice Kimber. I wanted to buy an entry level. I know that name doesn't mean anything to you guys, but I went in and I was like, oh, okay, I just want to buy an entry level, and I start shopping around and looking, and end up with a gun about twice of what I should have paid for my first ever gun. But yeah, so I like I said, I've got the headphones I can play music through, and I go to the range and shoot, a couple hundred rounds probably once every 2 or 3 weeks. So I enjoy it.
All right, well,
bow hunting's fun. I've always wanted to have a bow.
It's really cool.
I'm with you on that, Carey.
It's like bowling. It's very similar to me.
It's very.
You get into a rhythm to where you can start, hitting it right down the middle.
And it's just peaceful. Like it's real. It's not like a gun where you're, like I'm popping out the clip and I'm reloading and I'm doing all that stuff. Like it's just all real. You're just kind of there doing your thing. So
I tell you what, revolvers are fun just because they're cool to unload and reload. Clips are pains in the asses to me.
Clips can definitely be a pain. I have got 2, and I keep one for my range loads, and then one for what I would use at home.
Shooting intruders.
So, yeah, exactly. They're going to get it a lot worse than any target. So.
Well, people, you got tons of recruiting, tons of Josh in this one. It was all Josh all the time. Also, I don't know why Ty Darlington just followed me. He wants something probably. But
He
Eddie,
wants in on BFJ. Hashtag BFJ.
BFJ.
Banging for Jesus.
Oh,
You've already forgotten.
he's gonna unfollow me after this podcast.
Love you, Ty.
I like Ty a lot. But yeah, thanks, Eddie. It's fun. Big 12 this week. Josh, thanks
Good.
for all your recruiting info today. Everybody, the season is about to start. I'm just telling you right now, go sign up. If you're not a member of Soonerscoop.com, you'll get daily, practice tidbits from Eddie and I after practices. You'll be able to ask us questions all the time. So it's ramping up. I'm going to continue working on Big 12 stories. Lincoln Riley still got a lot of stuff to get to from him. Eddie was just reminding me of some stuff that Orlando Brown had told me that will make a really good story. So go to Soonerscoop.com. If you're not a member, sign up. We may even have a special. Email Josh at Soonerscoop.com if you have any problems, and he will get you taken care of. Email me if you want Murdoch at Soonerscoop.com as well. So thanks to everybody for listening. Tell your friends about the podcast. Go on to iTunes. Give us a rating. You can download us at SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play if you're on an Android, or iTunes. So tell your friends about the podcast. We love hearing your feedback, even when we're out on the town or on the street, so we know you guys are listening. So thanks for listening once again, and we'll see you guys next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40.